tend to vote as a bloc in one of the two parties limit their leverage in getting action from both parties. And I think it's time that African Americans form an independent party, not be an appendage of one party or ignored by the other party, and using their leverage in a democracy to say we stand for things that are principally focused on the interests of the 40 million African Americans, and not have that diluted by trying to be a part of another party where the interests may diverge, and oftentimes do diverge. And it's been a fact that had African American interests been fully embraced by one or two of the dominant parties, we wouldn't have the tremendous social, economic, racial issues that we have now.
So I guess I have two questions. One is, how do you build this from the ground up? I mean, the infrastructure alone would be a huge challenge. Would you stage your own candidates? Would you otherwise endorse Democrats or Republicans? How would this work?
Ultimately, an independent party, and this happens in all multi-party democracies, they run their own candidates in various jurisdictions. They run them on the local level, state level, and obviously at the national level. And because this country sort of operates on an electoral college approach to deciding who is the president of the United States, moving votes from one candidate to another can ultimately determine who is the next president of the United States. All you have to do is look at what happened with Secretary Clinton. The low turnout of African American votes in key battleground states, it ultimately gave the election to Donald Trump. So African Americans, because they vote as a bloc, can have that balance of power.
That it is an election year, and that to get a new political party off the ground probably would take some time. What are the policies you'd like to see put forward by the candidates right now?
Well, I don't see this happening this year, but I do see the discussion about it hopefully happening this year. As you can see, the Democratic Party is terrified of the notion that black folks might either vote a protest vote at the top of the ticket or decide to sit this out. That's exemplified by what I think is the most amazing thing that I've ever heard a white Democrat say when Joe Biden said, even if you thinking about not voting for me, you ain't, in his words, you ain't black. That is a horrendous statement, but it also reflects the need for a black independent party, that someone can be so presumptuous that you have to vote for a Democrat, or otherwise you are not identified as black. That is the principal reason why we need a black party, independent, to change that kind of behavior, so that we're not, as I said, taken for granted by the Democrats and ignored by the Republicans, because the Republicans basically say they'll never vote for us, so why do we want to engage them in a dialogue about what's in the interest of 40 million African Americans?
Robert, it's David Faber. You know, I wanted to ask you a business question, but let me just follow on what you're talking about first, which is, you know, I wonder though, if this were to happen, would you really have national power? Could you ever get to an actual level in each state where you would really have power? Or in some ways, are you better off having one of the national parties, in this case typically the Democrats, more fully reflective of what's important to the black community?
Well, David, in business as in politics, what you want to have more than anything else is leverage. And black Americans proved that in South Carolina. I mean, that Joe Biden would not be the presumptive nominee today if black people had decided they were going to go someplace else. So black people have the power. They just simply have not exercised it. So the idea of saying to the Democrats, hey, you guys do better and we'll stay with you, black Americans have tried that for years, since the day blacks switched over from voting Republican to to start voting with Democrat. And at the same time, the Republicans have said, no sense talking to black people about coming on board with us because they're emotionally, socially, whatever, locked into the Democrat. Why not black Americans step back and say, we may run Senate seats, we may run congressional seats, we may run local mayor seats. And just as they do in multi-party democracies across the board, there's no reason, there's nothing in the Constitution that says we should only have two parties in this democracy. There's nothing there. Other countries do it, and they split the vote, but you can leverage that power in a way in your best interest, not in the interest of the two-party system.
Right. All right, Robert, let me ask you a business question while we've got you here. Given your deep knowledge and long history in the cable distribution business, or at least as a content provider, of course, at BET, and as somebody who knows the sports leagues well, I'm just curious as to this moment, your thoughts about it. If you're a cable distributor right now, paying for ESPN, paying for all these regional sports networks, or if you're an owner of a team, how are you viewing this moment? I mean, are the cable distributors going to finally throw up their hands and say, enough, we're not paying anymore for given that we're not getting any live sports?
Well, David, interestingly enough, I said this many years ago at one of the Allen and Company conferences, as you know, and I said it then, at some point, the cable industry bundling cable services to consumers, where they have to pay for a smorgasbord of content of which they only watch a fraction of all the pieces that they're paying for, was a model that would not work in the long term when digital a la carte choices became available. Well, those choices are available now. So the cable industry can't keep paying basic cable fees for 70, 80 channels, of which the population of customers only watch some 18 or 17% of the channels that they offer. So the cable industry has to get off that model and go towards a model of a la carte programming, letting people choose what they want to watch. The sports leagues have the advantage that it's very hard to find another product that attracts male consumers and male customers the way sports does. And I think that as long as they can come up with a rational compensation model from the distributors, of which the customers have to pay for, and it'll work. But ultimately, I believe that a pay-per-view model, because the economics are so great, will ultimately prevail in sports programming. That people will buy the sports they want to buy, rather than buying everything that a sports channel puts on. And it's already happening with the NFL on DirecTV. So people are smart. They make choices of what they want to see when they want to see it. They don't believe in the idea, in order to get one game, I gotta buy 30 games or 30 programs that I have no interest in watching. So if I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, which I am, if I'm happy buying, Dallas Cowboy games, I'm not concerned about some of the other games. And that ultimately is going to happen, just as sure as we've seen now, where basic channels are being, cable operators saying, why pay for these channels where I have a fraction of viewers, and viewers are moving to streaming. And that's why I got into streaming in a partnership with AMC, with two channels, Acorn TV, which is over 1 million plus subscribers, and a urban-oriented channel, Urban Movie Channel, for the same reason, because you can't sustain these channels for customers who don't watch it. It's just the fact of life. And the ease of a push button to make it easy to make that decision is a further factor in saying, why do I need to do this when I can watch what I want?
Yeah, choice matters. We got to run, Robert, but really quick, on either reparations or your idea for a new party, have you discussed it with Clyburn? Did you ever talk about it with Cummings, or the president, or Joe Biden for that matter?
I've been talking about reparations for several years. First of all, other black folks have been talking about reparations long before I got in the game. I get in the game because as a business person, I understand how wealth flows. Reparations, the wealth from reparations is a payback for wealth that came from slavery. Now, the one thing I know, people will say, Joe Biden will say, I'm not paying money for people who I don't know who are dead. Mitch McConnell will say the same thing. And the Democrat members of the caucus tend to toe that line. But one thing I do know, David, and you and Carl and Morgan know from the understanding of money, money does not die. People may die, slaves may die, some of their ancestors may die. Money doesn't die. Money circulates, indeed money multiplies. And if I had some accountants and actuaries, I could trace every dollar of slavery to the wealth of every American in this country. So reparations is simply a way of transferring back to African Americans what was stolen from them from slavery through Jim Crow segregation and racism. And that's all it is, and it's been done before. The descendants of the Jews were paid by the descendants, those people who allowed Nazism to happen. And so this is not new. The question really is white Americans should ask themselves, why shouldn't we do this? Not do we deserve it? Do they have a right to it? The question is, why wouldn't you do this?
Robert, thanks for the time. You've definitely launched a conversation now on a couple of different fronts, and we'll have this discussion again, hopefully soon. We'll talk to you then.
Okay.
Thanks.
Look forward to joining you guys. Take care.